Welcome to Ocean Stories, a podcast hosted by me, Lydia Carey,
and me, Sarah Hersping. We may not be marine experts or even professional scuba divers, but we are curious about the ocean and ways to protect it.
Every week, we chat with conservationists, researchers, business owners, and anyone else with an ocean story to tell.
So whether you're a scientist or someone who's simply curious about the big blue, you're in the right spot. We can't save the seas alone,
but we can do it together.
Welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
We actually lied last week. We lied. We said we would never record from two different places. Well, this is the last
We
time.
did lie.
Lydia's moving tomorrow. I am beyond excited. It feels like a blind date. We're about to unite for the first time. We'll have to film it. Your mom has to film us running towards each other for the first time.
Like when people film you opening presents and stuff, I hate that. It makes me feel even more awkward.
You're
like I don't want anyone to film me my reaction. It just makes me feel weird.
Well, we'll see how that goes. But
yeah,
that's gonna be fun. Crazy things happening. This episode that you are about to listen to is actually the very first episode we ever recorded. It's been I don't even know how many months. I think it was September that we actually recorded this. Is that true?
Yeah,
and it's
wow.
crazy.
No, not September. It had to be October, but it was definitely the first one that we ever recorded. I had just moved back to the US.
That's insane.
It was just a crazy time. Like, we were so nervous. We were
so
out.
all over the place. So funny. Yeah, our friend Kayla is the interviewee. It's gonna be really cool. But yeah, so crazy. We came such a long way. Listening back to this, I know we said this before, but I literally don't even know who that person is. It's like who Lydia and I are. It's like so absurd how different everything is now. But yeah, so
I feel like I'm repeating myself too, but you think that it's going to be so easy. Like, you think, I'm just going to, turn the camera on and just have a conversation. And then I learned about myself that I remember in those days, like, it would take me like 7 times to record the intro because I was so nervous just from being recorded and just from knowing I was being recorded, which is crazy because I love to chat and I love to talk. So it is crazy how far we've come, and it's only up from here. We always say that, but it's like true. I don't know.
Well, things are happening. I just came back from Hawaii. It was actually the absolute paradise. It was so crazy, but it reminded me a lot of episodes that we recorded before, and so funny because I don't know if you've seen the most recent Instagram video that Lydia uploaded about the turtle sanctuary or the turtle hospital. But while we were surfing, well, not technically me, I was surfing kind of like in the bay, very like close to the beach, but 2 of my friends were all the way out. Like, literally in Kauai, you surf out in the open ocean. It's like scary. But there was a tiger shark eating a turtle out in the lineup, more or less.
Wait,
a little bit.
Wait.
Yes.
My heart just stopped.
Yes.
Are you serious? Like, you saw it?
I didn't see it, no, but my friends that were out surfing, like the people in the lineup chatted about it because it was really close to the lineup.
Was the turtle surviving, or was the turtle not?
I don't think it was surviving. I don't know. I don't have that many information. It was more like, hey, just be aware that there's a tiger shark eating a turtle out there for the surfers. That's all the info. But it was funny because now you uploaded the video, and I was like, yeah, I guess that happened a couple of days ago, more or less in front of my eyes.
I mean, I said it in the video, but I genuinely was looking at these turtles. Like, both of their front flippers are completely gone. And I was like, they're rehabilitating this turtle to go back into the ocean after this poor girl. First of all, it was like almost 300 pounds. And I just did not realize that turtles were that heavy. But on top of that, I was like, this poor girl has faced
to go back.
Insane things in her life, survived, and now has to go back into the ocean. Like, good luck, Charlie. I don't know.
PTSD this little turtle must have when it sees the open ocean again the next time. One other thing that was crazy in Hawaii, I mean, it just, maybe this is like completely wrong, but we were thinking, this reminded me of the episode with Stream to Sea, because we were thinking we could snorkel pretty much everywhere and it would be the craziest, luscious environment, and there would be just fish swimming around and it would be like the zoo underwater. And it was really hard to find good snorkeling spots. Like, it was really hard to see something. And then I was like, oh no, is this kind of what Mike talked about? Because he said, like, he brought his daughters back and there was no fish, even though when he grew up, you couldn't even walk in the water because the fish would bump into you. Maybe it's like coincidence. Maybe that's not even that related. But I was just thinking about this 24/7. I also made everyone wear a Stream to See all day long. I was like, which sunscreen are you using? But honestly, even in the surf shops everywhere, there's only mineral sunscreens. I only saw mineral sunscreens in Hawaii, so it seems like they really have it together. If you're traveling to Hawaii or anywhere, if you step foot in the ocean,
Anywhere, yeah.
anywhere,
Yeah.
use sunscreen that's not toxic to you or the environment, because yeah, otherwise there's not going to be any fish left. And it was scary and shocking, and I thought we would see like literally an aquarium underwater, and that did not really happen. So yeah, that reminded me. Whoa,
Did you see any other notable wildlife while you were
I
there?
did not really see anything else, TBH. My friend saw turtles. I didn't. Um, did we see anything else? No, I think we didn't really see. I mean, we went snorkeling a few times and then actually saw some fish, but nothing crazy, I think. Maybe I'm forgetting something
Gotcha.
right now. But something I learned yesterday, and I am in utter shock, and I don't know how I'll ever recover from this, is did you know that Portugal, Thailand, and I believe Spain, or Spain is about to, banned peeing in the ocean, and you can get a 7 or 800 euro fine if you pee in the ocean?
No, I did not know that.
That is what I looked at. I watched like one of
Spain,
my
Portugal, and
in
where else?
Thailand.
Okay,
Um,
why?
I was so confused. I was watching my favorite surfer's TikTok, and she said like, "Oh yeah, we surfers always pee in the ocean, and we always pee in our wetsuits, even when we're in Portugal where it's illegal." And I was like, right away, I was like, "What are we talking about? Why would it be illegal, and how do you enforce that? Like, who checks if you're peeing right now?" Um, but it turns out that a lot, like a high concentration of human pee in the water actually is really bad for wildlife and is really bad for coral, because it's like so acidic that the coral is dying because too many people are peeing in the water.
I'm shocked. That's
I was
wild.
literally like, I was just like, I did not know, because I always thought it was like so fine to be in the water. I guess it makes sense if there's like crazy touristy hotspots where there's like thousands of visitors, which happens in Europe a lot, and they all pee in the water. And then the poor animals, oh my god, I hate it. I'm
That's
like,
crazy that they made it illegal. I'm gonna Google that later. I don't know why that reminds me of something really funny. When I first moved to Spain, I don't remember how I knew this woman. She was like an abuela, and she told me something like, "Oh, have you like gone on any dates? Like, have you met any, Spanish men, whatever?" And I was like, "No, I just got here. Like, I'm just a little sprite." And she told me like, "Be careful because all the men here pee on the streets." And I was like, that is such a weird thing to say. You're obviously just a strange old woman, thanks for the advice. But men here, like, are not going to pee on the street. Like, I just, it's just one of those things where you're like, okay, older
yeah.
person, like, with weird beliefs. And genuinely, it was the truest thing. People pee everywhere in Spain. I don't know if it's true about in other places in Europe, but seriously, on first dates, this is a first impression. Sorry, like, give me 1 second. And the man will go. This happened to me twice. Will go, like, just somewhere. Once was on the beach, to be fair. And go pee, like, on the street. I'm sorry. What? Like, what? That is not acceptable. It's disturbing. It's so disturbing. So to combat it, they have these, because where I was, there's like these neighborhood parties and town parties and stuff. To combat it, they have these urinals, like public, like freestanding out open air urinals that have like 6 slots
Oh yeah, I've seen
all
those
around.
before.
You know what I'm talking about? For people to pee. And I'm like, what you're talking about made me think maybe they could put one of those at the beach. But this is just a random thing that just made me think of that woman who told me like careful because the men like to pee. And I was like,
funny.
you're full of doo doo. I don't know what you're talking about. And it turned out to be really true. And there's
Wow.
certain plazas at the place I was in where it just smells awful, and I hated it. So I
Wow.
don't know why that just reminded me of that.
Damn. Okay, that was a lot of pee talk. How do we get from the
Sorry.
pee talk to the kelp talk?
Well, humans and the ocean, it's all interconnected. And you might
Exactly.
think something as simple as wearing sunscreen in the ocean or peeing in the ocean is not going to matter. But it's like everything with the environment. If one person, like, you have to question yourself and think, if every single person ever did this thing that I'm doing, would it be okay for the earth? And it's true for peeing. Like, if we all peed in the ocean, it would kill all the coral reefs. So, no, you can't do it. But I don't know, like, peeing in the ocean is.
I feel like
Anyways,
it's
more on
fine in
that
a lot
later.
of yeah. We'll do
We'll
some
think
more
about it
research
and
and
we'll
we'll
come
check
back
in
to you.
next
Today's
this week.
episode.
Today's episode. Lydia, what's happening?
Today, we're talking about career switches. We're talking about coral restoration and kelp monitoring with Kayla from Bleu World. Kayla was and still is a software engineer, but she did a switcheroo and turned her career into all about the ocean. So now she's an ocean explorer, and she's founded an ocean conservation nonprofit called Bleu World. And Bleu World is all about making educational ocean expeditions more accessible to people like her who they had maybe a different career and they want to check out what is this marine bio ocean diving world all about. That's what Bleu World does. They're making those expeditions more accessible. So it's really exciting. Kayla also works to restore coral reefs with coral gardeners and monitors kelp forests, like I said. So she's just doing a bunch of stuff in the ocean space to get more people involved and protect our oceans. Our favorite type of person to talk to, conservation girly.
Honestly. And yeah, she works a lot with kelp, which comes from the nature of where we are located. She is on Catalina Island, which is off the coast, like in the LA area. There's a lot of kelp here. And we actually have something exciting happening.
We are doing a joint fundraiser with Ocean Mimic, Ocean Stories, and Bleu World to benefit the Kelp Forest Collective. Woo! Yay, so exciting. So, Bleu
Yay!
World, yay, yeah, it's amazing. Bleu World is selling prints of ocean creatures, ocean prints. We will post them on our Instagram and more details about this there. But these prints are super cool ocean pictures, and all of the money that you spend on these prints will go towards the Kelp Forest Collective. Kelp is actually super important for the ocean. It's like one of those like ugly animal things where it's one of those things that gets super underrated because who cares about kelp? But then the existence of kelp and having healthy kelp is like super important to like the ocean ecosystem. So, check out the prints. If you decide to buy one, you would be supporting the fundraiser that will support the kelp forests on Catalina Island. The prints come in various sizes, and you can get them in photo format or a canvas format. So it's a cutie gift for an ocean lover in your life, and it goes to a really good cause. So we're super excited. Our first fundraiser with
Phew.
Kayla, and yeah.
Let's bring her on. Whoa, welcome. Oh my god. The
Hey guys.
backdrop. Are you kidding? Hello, Kayla. I'm
Hey, how
so
are you
excited
guys?
to have you on the podcast. Good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. So excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, the
Thank
palm
you.
tree in the background, for people that are just listening, it is a beautiful tropical looking background. Welcome. We are super excited today
Thank
to
you.
welcome Kayla to Ocean Stories podcast. We need to know, where are you? Because the background is just stunning.
Yeah, so I am actually currently on site with Coral Gardeners at their global headquarters in Moorea in French Polynesia. So you can actually, for those listening, you can see the boat in the photo. Staying like two doors down from headquarters, and we have this beautiful waterfront property. You can see all the mountains in the background, and there's palm trees around. It's pretty picturesque. Not a bad place to go for work.
I
Wow,
am
that is
shook that,
fantastic.
yeah, I cannot believe that that's your office right now. Like, we'll post a photo of Kayla's backdrop right now onto our social platforms because that's unreal. This is literally full on
French
paradise.
Polynesia, literally tropical looking. Wow, okay, super exciting. Were you working earlier today? Do I have that right? That you were doing some diving ocean work literally in the past few hours, or
Yeah, so it's actually morning now, but last night the team went out to our nurseries. So we've been growing corals in our nurseries for a year to like 3 years now, and some of the corals are becoming sexually mature. So we're watching for spawning. So when a
Wow.
coral spawns, it actually releases its eggs and sperm into the water column, and that's how those will then float down and root onto reefs. And it's one of the natural ways that reefs reproduce. So it's super exciting that we're actually growing corals that are doing this. And it happens at night with the full moon cycle. So that's why we started a little later this
wow,
morning,
What?
because we were all
stop.
out on the boat last night monitoring.
Wait, did you
I mean,
actually
you
see
can't
it
make
though?
that up.
Did it actually happen?
Yeah, so we haven't seen it happen, but we're checking. Like you can actually check the polyps to see whether or not the
Oh,
eggs are still there. And yesterday the team saw them during the day. Last night they we didn't see eggs anymore, so possibly we missed it. Possibly we were looking at the wrong corals. It's a really hard event to capture, so we're
that's
going every night and we
crazy.
keep hoping.
Wow.
And we have our live stream, so on YouTube, if you guys go to Coral Gardeners, you can see the live stream of the camera that we have mounted in our nurseries. And we've deployed red lights out there now so that we can actually monitor at night. So we've been watching that stream. We went out 2 nights ago as well because we thought we saw it happening, and it was actually these like larval eels that were capturing the light. They're like translucent. And so we thought that it was like little corals spawning. But it wasn't. And so we're going to continue to monitor and hopefully we can get the shot.
That
Wow, a
is
lot going
incredible.
on.
That's crazy.
I
It is.
love
It looks
hearing
like
that.
it's snowing, right? I think I've seen it on a video before. And actually, Emma has
Yeah,
seen it in real life before, and she always talks about it as like her favorite moment in the ocean
that's
ever.
so cool. I'm like dying to see it. And the other thing that's possible, because we're hoping that our nursery coral spawn, is that it's not a full, like complete reef, obviously. There's not as many corals as would be on an entire coral reef. So it's possible that if it does happen, that it won't be as big of an event as you would see naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So, even if we're out there, it's possible that we miss it. It's hard to capture, but hopefully we see it in the next couple of days.
Damn. That's like so, it's like so magic in itself, but it's crazy that it's then also aligned with the full moon. I'm like,
I was just about to say,
there's
Yeah,
I
this.
love hearing that these natural things, like you cannot make up the fact that coral are sexually releasing their, what you just said, on the full moon. And it's
What you
crazy
said.
because we all, I mean, we really, there is such a wild energy on the full moon, and I've always thought that. But just to hear that the coral are also having a wild thing happen on the full moon
Just
is
confirmation.
crazy. Yeah.
I know,
it's
like
truly
It's
what?
magic. Yeah.
like we are connected somehow to
Wow.
the moon for all those
Damn.
astrology
What
Oh,
an
for
intro.
sure.
naysayers.
How did you get there? How are you sitting in your office in French Polynesia in the absolute most beautiful place ever and you get to work there? Like let's let's go back. Let's go all the way back to where it all started.
I was it, during the
Okay.
pandemic and lockdown, watching a ton of ocean documentaries. It was one of the ways that I was passing the time and staying sane while I was home alone in my apartment. And I happened to watch this one called The Sharks of Lost Island, which was shot in the Pitcairn Islands in the South Pacific. And it was Enrique Sala and his Pristine Seas expedition through National Geographic. They went out to document the pristine reefs that they assumed would be there. And it was, I mean, it was absolutely pristine. The amount of sharks, the amount of life on these reefs were insane. But at the same time, that was juxtaposed with the terrestrial exploration that they were doing. So they would go onto these deserted islands, like nobody has lived there, I think, ever, or at least not in like decades. Um, and the people that were on land were still finding beaches full of trash.
Mm.
And so both of those things in that film kind of inspired me. I was like, I would love to be exploring these oceans like these people. I would love to be doing work that could help protect the oceans as well. And so that kind of kickstarted it all. I started doing some research at the time. I was planning to move to California. So I was like, obviously, I'm going to become a scuba diver now. Um, and yeah, I was at the time also
So
just doing some software engineering work on like with a company based out of Philadelphia. And I started looking around for different climate and ocean technologies, and I happened to find a really cool ocean mapping group called Bedrock, and so I was able to join that team and start building ocean technology while becoming a scuba diver and starting to launch Blue. So it all kind of like fell into place
Oh,
perfectly when I moved to the West Coast, and I have
that is
not looked back in
crazy.
2 years.
Wow. So just to understand, you did not go to school for anything ocean related, nor were you like really in the ocean scene before the lockdown. Like you, that's when it all happened, or what did you do before? What did you go to college for?
Yeah, that's exactly right, actually. I went to college to study math and computer science. Originally, I was thinking I'd be a math teacher, and then I took some computer
Wow.
science courses and I was like, oh, I like building things. Um, so I went into engineering and I did that for 5, 6 years before I started doing some ocean tech work. Um, and yeah, so all of the marine biology work, all of the ocean conservation stuff, I'm completely self-taught. It's been definitely like a study of passion for me. There's a
That's
ton of
amazing.
awesome resources online, like free courses, a ton
Mm.
of scientific articles and journals and things that you can read and work on. And I've also done a lot of volunteering abroad to do ocean conservation work and to learn how things like restoration are done, and monitoring. So it's been pretty much a free time activity for me. It's like a full time hobby, I call it.
Wow.
But yeah, so far I've learned a ton and spent a lot of time underwater, which I love.
That's
It's so
super fun.
inspiring that you kind of switched to it rather, I mean, later in life sounds crazy. You're in your 20s, but that you did not go to school and study marine biology and stuff, but you still ended up.
Yeah,
Thank
Personally,
I
I've
you.
also
had a moment several times in my life where I'm like, I need to go back to school, I need to study biology or something and like start all over. And it never really
Yeah.
occurred to me that you could just get into the field without fully redoing your bachelor's and everything. So that's super
Yeah,
inspiring.
and
Like,
actually, at the time, that was definitely my take on it too. I had applied actually to go to a university in Australia to study marine biology and like do a master's degree. And
same.
I was like, going to leave software engineering. I was going to try and do the science route. And then I found these jobs in ocean tech, and I was like, oh my God, I can do both. Like, that's incredible. Um, and I think working in software gave me a lot of opportunity. You have the opportunity to make good money doing this kind of work. And so I was able to spend that money doing a lot of volunteering and internships. And that's kind of what inspired me to start Blue, because I knew that as a student, I would not have had that kind of like financial opportunity. And so I want to be able to provide that to other people and let them experience doing ocean work without, breaking the bank, so to speak.
mm,
Um, so,
there's
because it's really been a big part of how I've gotten here is to do that in field work.
so you are in lockdown, you're watching all these documentaries and you decide to move to California. Where did you go? Because I know that now you live in a pretty epic place, but is that where you moved to right
So when I first moved, I moved to Oceanside, California, which is just south of the Marine base there. My sister and her husband were working as Marines stationed in Southern California. And so I went to live with them for a couple of months. At the time, that was when I had started my scuba certification. So I was diving both in San Diego and in Laguna Beach and doing some boat dives, some shore dives, a good mix, as well as my courses. So started with open water in Laguna, and then I did my advanced course in La Jolla. And then I went on a dive boat out to Catalina Island actually, and I happened to meet my instructor, Zach Araneta, who did my entire advanced through dive master training. And he was bringing a group out to Catalina, like by ferry, to dive at the dive park there. And so I joined them. And while I was there, I was like, this feels like home. Like, I wasn't going to live with my sister forever. And so when I went to visit Catalina, I realized like this would be a really great way for me to build a community for Blue, to dive a lot more because I was still really new and I knew I wanted to do professional diving and scientific diving. And it's a small, beautiful island town. So I started looking for places and I got super lucky, found an apartment within like a week, which is very rare. And
Wow.
to me, kind of makes it feel like it was meant to be.
mm.
And yeah, so I moved there January of 2022. So it's been almost 2 years now that I've lived on the island. You have to
Yeah.
come visit. We're going to
I
go
know.
diving, we're going to hang out.
Lydia has to come to California ASAP.
Mm.
So we should match that
It's
all up.
true.
So we have a little California trip and end up diving with Kayla on the island. That would be so cool.
That would be great. And I'll show you guys the
Yeah.
kelp forest there. It's incredible.
Oh my God. Ooh, that brings me to the question of the day.
Something we
If you
wanted to
can,
know.
if you cannot answer this, well, then don't feel bad. But I have a question of the day because I went to the beach yesterday, and within
Yeah.
24 hours, there are okay. The beach was beautiful, white sand, and
Oh, I
then
saw this.
24 hours later, there is literally 5 feet tall piles of seaweed. Like the entire beach, it looks like a war zone. It's like covered in seaweed, and I'm like, how is that possible?
So I don't know for sure, but my best guess is that in the end of the summer, that's when the waters are the warmest in Southern California, and that's what causes the kelp to start to break down. So every year, the kelp kind of goes through this transition period where it gets brittle and it starts to break apart, like the leaves will come apart in the water column.
Wow.
And sometimes when that's happening, the bladders, so each kelp plant has little bladders that attach the leaves to the stipes, and that's what keeps the kelp buoyant. So that's what helps it stand up in the water column. When it gets warmer and the kelp starts to get weaker, those bladders lose their buoyancy, and so it starts to lay down, and it actually starts to get the stipes themselves get weaker. And if there's strong surge, it can actually pull the kelp plants up from the bottom. Totally natural at this point. Like sometimes that happens in storms, and that's not as natural. Um, but at the end of the summer, we do see this happening more. So my best guess is that maybe that was happening like in the cove there. Like maybe there was stronger surge over the weekend. The kelp is most likely in that like weaker state, and then once it's ripped up, it'll just wash up onto shore. So that would
Hmm.
be my best
What is an ocean
guess.
column?
An ocean column, like so I think you mean like the water column, or
Or yeah, when you say ocean column or water column.
if you are ever somewhere where there's a lot of kelp plants, the kelp, I mean, it's called a forest for a reason. Like if you're down on the bottom, you can actually look up and see these plants standing up. So it's kind of like you would see trees standing up. But trees have these really hard stumps. And so that makes perfect sense why it stands up. Um, but in the water column, things are moving. It's the water, so it's not going to be naturally standing. And the kelp itself is like not very hard, at least the giant kelp that we get in Southern California. There are some kelps that have harder, stronger stipes or stems. Um, but because of the way that the giant kelp is structured, it's a little bit looser and it wouldn't necessarily be standing straight up. So when I say water column, like I'm thinking about it if I'm diving on the seafloor, like I'm kind of closer to the ground, I'm going to look up and see a whole bunch of water above me. And when I'm in kelp forest, I'll see a whole bunch of kelp standing up right all around me. And that's where the bladders that I was talking about, so those little air pockets that are attached to the stipe, that's what's actually holding it up in the water column.
Wow. So they're kind of like little balloons that are helping the kelp to stand up. That's so
Yeah,
interesting.
that's
I
exactly
feel
right.
like it looks exactly what you just said. Like it looks like the kelp kind of like fell apart and dried up and now it's just in piles at the beach. So
Yeah.
I feel like that must be the reason and that makes sense. Well, tell us more about Blue. We want to hear everything. So,
Yes.
how did it start? How did you come up with that?
So this is a fun question actually, because when I started like doing work in the ocean, I started all of this like self-research, self-education. I was also hoping to do more work to save the ocean, like reduce my impact. And so I started Blue originally because I was living on the East Coast, away from the ocean. So it's like a little harder for people to understand how using single-use plastics, for example, will have an impact on the ocean when you're not seeing it every day, like when you're not walking those beaches and finding, the toothbrushes washed up in the sand. And so I wanted to start to kind of share this with my community where I was growing up and where I was living at the time. And so that was how Blue originally came to be. It was mostly just a platform for me to post about all of the products that I was finding that I really liked to use that didn't have plastic. I was also planning, and then I moved to California and I was planning to do beach cleanups. And so that for probably like a year and a couple months, like at least a full year, that was the main focus of Blue, was to just spread awareness for the plastic pollution problems facing our ocean, to kind of grow this sense of community, and in
Hmm.
that every small decision that you make has an impact, and if we all are making those same small decisions, like the collective impact will be larger. And so I ran it like that for a little while. At the time I was also, doing a lot of volunteering. I was starting my dive training, and I knew that I wanted to start to grow it a little bit more. I knew I wanted to do more with it. And there were a lot of ideas I had, a lot of people that I talked to in my network. And eventually I came up with the idea to kind of shift Blue World's focus and to incorporate as a nonprofit, which we now are. We're a 501(c)(3) in the United States. So we're
Wow,
actively working on our
congratulations.
fundraising. Thank you. It's actually new. So we're really, really excited about it.
That's amazing.
We like it's all been self-funded. It's all been just
Mm.
self-driven for a while. And so I'm really excited because now I have an awesome team. Jesse Shelton and Olivia Hughes, they've joined me on the board, and together we're working on raising some money so that we can run a series of scientific diving expeditions next year. The idea now with Blue is that our whole mission is to build a network of ocean changemakers, and we hope that they all have a passion for conservation, for exploration, and for science. Those are like our three main pillars. And we plan to do this through a number of things. The cleanups are always going to be part of who we are. They're like the most wholesome events I've ever been a part of. And the other way is through these expeditions that I've been talking about. And in 2024, we're going to launch some expeditions on Catalina Island. Those will
Ooh.
always run. Um, and so the idea is that with the start of this program, we're actually going to do some long term citizen science monitoring of the kelp forests on Catalina.
Wow.
There's some restoration work happening in the north of California. There's different reasons for that. Like we're seeing some urchin barrens take over the kelp forests, and so people are going out and removing the urchins. We're also starting to see in the south some invasive species like sargassum take over, and so people can go in and remove that as well to try and help the ecosystem revive. And so with all of that starting to happen, we're not at the point yet where we have entire coral reefs bleaching, so to speak. Like our kelp forests are still relatively healthy. They're still going through their normal processes. But the climate's changing, the oceans are warming, and we know that we need to start paying attention before that stuff happens so that we
Wait,
can kind of target efforts.
just to understand, so a kelp forest can bleach too? Is that what you just said?
No, sorry. I was kind of comparing it to how
Oh,
coral
okay,
reefs
okay, okay.
bleach.
Okay.
Yeah, so
No,
when, we're seeing a lot of that happen around the world, coral reefs are
yeah.
bleaching and entire reefs are dying. Right now, some kelp forests are dying for reasons like urchin barrens, which is when
Hmm.
sea urchins actually start to take over. Sea urchins will eat the kelp. And so when their predators
Oh.
are overfished, or when the environment isn't conducive to the predators living there anymore, the sea urchins can bloom and they'll start to eat more and more of the kelp. And I actually, my first time diving on an urchin barren, I was like, this is the coolest, different ecosystem ever. Like it looked like the moon because it was just all rocky. There's all these purple urchins everywhere. And I
Oh,
just thought it was like a new ecosystem.
are you saying ocean urchin barren as in the land is barren?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
we
that's
we
exactly
are
right.
not just to break it down for the non-scientists here. This is saying that
Yes,
the
thank you.
urchins are
That's
eating it
it.
so that it's barren like
Yep.
the moon. Okay, now I understand what
It's
you're saying
That
a bit
is
exactly
more.
right. And
crazy.
I can share some photos. It's wild,
Please.
like the
Yes.
difference. And there's like almost no fish because of this. Like the habitat
Mm.
has changed dramatically. Mostly there's just urchins everywhere eating all of the little algae and whatever kelp is left. Um, and so, anyways, I want to start monitoring in Catalina Island before we get to that point because we don't have many of these on my island yet. And we want to make sure that we're paying attention in case it starts to happen. And so the expeditions are going to be twofold. They're going to start this citizen science monitoring program. We're going to do surveys that contribute to a number of different databases that are already monitoring different types of populations and species. We're also going to be tracking fish abundance and marine debris around the island. And it's also going to be a really great opportunity for us to provide ideally free in-field experience for people that have a passion in this or that want to build a career in this. We want this to kind of be the first step for anybody that wants to start working in the ocean or who's already working in the ocean and they just want more exposure. In the summertime, we have a population of giant black sea bass that come into the dive park. And there's this awesome group in UC Santa Barbara that is monitoring the populations of giant black sea bass there. And so the way that they do that is through photo identification. So they ask for any diver that sees one to take a photo of the side of this fish. There is a unique spot pattern on these fish that they can actually use to identify it. And so we're going to go on a survey dive in search of those. We're going to try and record any encounters that we have. And obviously, we're always going to be diving against debris. So that's Patty Aware's mission, is to, anytime you go out, you're going to bring a dive bag, you're going to record any trash that you find, and you're going to pull it out of the ocean. So we're going to go through and we're going to tally up however many Garibaldi we see, however many kelp bass we see. We're going to record that on our slates, and then afterwards we'll go back and analyze the data, and we'll contribute it to these databases that are doing long-term monitoring of the ecosystems there. And so it's going to be a small group. We're going to have 4 volunteers for each expedition. We'll have 2 hosts so that we have a good ratio of instructor to student. And it's going to be super fun. We're going to be camping under the stars. We're going to be diving in the kelp forest, and we'll be on a boat all day on Saturday, which just is fantastic when you're on a boat off the coast of Catalina.
Wow.
So yeah, that's like a rough idea, and you can see it on our website. We have an expeditions page where it does detail out like a rough itinerary of what you can expect. Lots of learning, lots of diving. It should be a really cool weekend.
Wow. What requirements do you need to join?
So you just need to be certified. You can be an open water diver. We're not going to require that you have any additional certifications. Actually, a little sneak peek. Ideally, eventually, we're going to create our own specialty certification so that you'll leave the weekend also getting certified as a scientific diver. That's still in the works. So for now, you'll just leave the weekend with a lot more experience. You'll be more comfortable in the water.
I guess, Lydia, we gotta get our certification going so we can go.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
We can also help you do that.
We should just
all in
camp
one.
out on Catalina for a week.
A hole-in-one trip. Just listening to you talk and listening to you explain the spots on the tops of the giant black sea bass and all of this brings a lot of things to mind. There's a lot of things about your story that I think people will resonate with. One is this beautiful idea of bringing your expertise or your knowledge or some niche talent you have, in your case, being good at software, being good at data. As Sarah and I discussed, maybe math and conversions are not our strong point. Okay, so kudos to you. Bringing that knowledge and applying it to something that's really good for the earth and good for the world. I think a lot of people would love to find a way to use their skills and apply it to a cause. So that's one element that I love. I also really love the element of fate and destiny that's sort of wrapped up in your story of, you were following your passion and you ended up meeting people that led you along a certain road. And now it's really cool that you're bringing those opportunities to other people who maybe they also have some background skills in something completely unrelated to the ocean, but maybe they watched my octopus teacher documentary and now they want to do that. So my question for you is, what would you say, I guess, to some of those people that maybe they are working in consulting or finance, or they are teachers or what have you, and they are wanting to be able to talk how you talk about the water columns and the kelp bladders and things like this. It's actually crazy how much knowledge you have, considering that that's not what you studied your degree in. So I don't know, what would be your advice to those people?
I actually would say 2 different things. And the first one, it sounds a little cheesy, but seriously, do not be afraid to go for it. Anything that you want to do is possible. Use the resources at your disposal, use your network. You'll have to, something that I had to do, especially early on, is I spent a lot of my free time doing this. So, it wasn't necessarily something that I just had a whole bunch of days that I could spend studying like you would in school. It was really I'd get off of work and I would start to do a course, or I would start to read, or I would be doing diving on the weekends so that I could improve my skills there. But it's doable. If you are passionate about it, the hard work is worth it, and it doesn't even feel like work. It's so much fun, and there's so many excellent resources. And that kind of leads me to my second point is, if you are interested and you maybe have a non-traditional career path that isn't necessarily related to the ocean right now, you should reach out to us because me and my team actually like specialize in that. So no matter what you do now, if you reach out, we'll always be open to connecting you to different people. You could send us a resume. You could maybe join our team and work with us. You could join us on an expedition. We really want to empower people to get more involved in the ocean because there's so much work to be done here. And the more people that care and the more people working to do that, it's just going to make all the difference. Like, we need diversity in opinions. We need a huge audience of people that are passionate and that will actually make all of those small daily changes to make a big collective impact. And so, yeah, I think go for it and send us a message because we'd love to work with you and hang out with you and dive with you.
I mean, there you have it, folks.
That
If
is
you are thinking of switching to an ocean career, this is the biggest sign that you'll ever get. Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's not too
That
late.
is
It is not too late.
that is really inspiring. I feel like a lot of people will be inspired by this, us including.
I know me and
We
Sarah are
just
like, should we become divers? Should we become
yeah, should
citizen
we
scientists?
screw it? We're
You
off to
should,
Catalina
definitely.
Island. Yes, honestly.
Yeah, and I
I'm
mean, that's
really
the cool
keen.
thing about what we do with our expeditions is that we're going to teach you how to become a citizen scientist. And what that means is that you can do this anytime.
I love the idea of citizen science. I love that Blue World is working to get more people into it. It's going to be so critical for people to get more involved in data collection if we are going to tackle the issues, especially with the ocean. It's huge. We need data collectors
Yeah.
out there measuring the
Yes.
kelp on the beach, as Sarah did earlier.
We're all about providing people with opportunities that they might not have otherwise had. So, like students and people who are passionate about it, but maybe don't have the money to go volunteer for bigger programs. By contributing to citizen science, we're also helping those researchers that might not have a team that can go out and collect data themselves. That's a lot of times why researchers will go the citizen science route, is because they need more data. They need data long term. And the best way to get that is by asking the public for help. And so we're hoping to do that as well with the projects that we contribute to.
This made
That's
me have another question for you. in
Yeah, go
in
for it.
this world of getting into ocean careers, becoming citizen science divers, and all of this, you mentioned some of the challenges. What do you think are the biggest challenges and barriers for people breaking into trying to get into this stuff? And what have your biggest barriers and challenges been with starting Blue World, just so we can all be more aware of what they are so we can try and figure them out?
Yeah, this is a great question, actually. I think there's a number of things. I think it's going to depend on the person. Obviously, like Blue World's really interested in helping to lower the financial barrier that some people experience. Both diving and marine science are expensive.
Mm.
And, we want to be able to provide people with the opportunities to do that. Another barrier that I have experienced in the past is that scuba diving isn't for everybody. Sometimes there's health related reasons why you can't go diving. Sometimes it's not the most comfortable experience. You can get claustrophobic. So, or, there's also people that have fear of like open ocean, open water. So actually getting that certification, if you aren't already a diver, that can be a challenge as well. It's worth it to work through it, I will say. And if there are any instructors that can teach you how to do it, you just need to make sure that you're honest with them and that you're working really hard with them to figure out how to make it work for yourself. So for example, we partner with a group called Scuba by Design on Catalina Island, and they prioritize adaptive diving and specialized diving for each individual. So they really want to make sure that both your first experience and every experience after that in the ocean is a good one. And Lisa is the one that runs this organization. She is going to work with you every single day that it takes in order to get you that certification. So finding instructors like that are going to take the time to teach you, to make sure that you're comfortable, to get you the experience that you need to get that certification, that's going to be a really good way to kind of get through that barrier, because I know that is something that people experience sometimes.
personally, I definitely been in that situation of
Yeah.
getting claustrophobic underwater, but I also definitely did not have an instructor I just did it like what do you call it? Discovery dives
Mm.
in
Yeah, the
Thailand
Discover
before,
Dive.
and it
Yeah.
was very much like, let's just all go into the ocean. This dive spot is called the Shark Triangle, and I was just straight up
I think
hyperventilating
I
on
would
my
start to
first dive. And
Yeah.
hyperventilate. Yeah, like breathing like super
yeah, it
fast and
was
just
yeah, my tank was empty in like 10 minutes, I kid you not, because I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, there's sharks under me. I don't even know what to do. Like, I had to do the training of what you do, like, when you lose your mouthpiece in the open
Yeah.
ocean with sharks under me. I was like, this is not chill. I am not okay right now. Everything you said right now just made me feel really comfortable that there's people out there and they will work through your fears with you. Because I feel like a lot of people, especially people that grew up landlocked, maybe have some sort of fear about the ocean. I mean, it's kind of unnatural to
yes.
breathe underwater, so it's definitely a little crazy
Yeah.
to first
I
get
was
used
It's
just
a
to it.
little,
thinking about
and
that.
yeah, and I've seen it happen. People, from like all walks of life, I've seen have these like panicked moments when they get in the water. You can even be a really comfortable like swimmer, and sometimes, like, for whatever reason, just being on scuba is a very different experience, and it doesn't necessarily jive with what you're used to. Um, but I don't like want any of this to discourage anybody. Like, even if you are nervous, it's super possible, and you just need to make sure that you're talking with your dive shop and your instructors.
To wrap this up with two fun questions, what is your favorite sea creature you've ever seen on a dive?
Love this question. I think my favorite sea creature that I've been diving with are sea lions.
Ooh,
There is, and
Cute.
this is like one of my favorite stories to tell. There are a colony of sea lions in Coronado Islands in Mexico. So that's just south of the border, near San Diego. So you can actually take a dive boat out of San Diego, go over to those islands, especially in like the next couple of months, like October, November timeframe. The sea lions there are actually having their pups, and sea lion pups, the cutest creatures you will ever see. They like mimic you in the water. So if you're like down there diving with them, you do like one of these, you like dance with them, they'll actually do it back. Like, they are so interested. They don't understand what you are or who you are. You're on scuba, you're loud, you're like there with them in their environment. And there's so many of them. They're so playful and like dancing in the ocean. It's incredible.
there is
So
no way.
definitely sea lions.
Sounds like a
Yeah,
Little
it's
Mermaid
so
moment.
So cute. Sea
it
lions are
really
so
is. And
cheeky, like they're so
they're
funny.
so cool. And we even had, so when I did this dive, we did 3 different dives. So we went to a couple different spots. One of them is where most of the pups are, and the other one was just this beautiful little cove. And we were diving, and this adult sea lion came over. And I'm not kidding you, for like 25 minutes, the entire second half of the dive, the sea lion was like, it would swim off and then it would come back and it would like do a spin. And like, if you spin with it, it gets it like excited. It really engages the sea lion. And so it kept coming back. And even to the point where we did our safety stop and it's hanging out in the middle of the water column with us. We got up to the surface and the sea lion's like breaching and like dancing at the top of the ocean with us. It was just so cool. They have such an awesome personality, and they're like,
That is
I think,
amazing.
one of the coolest creatures to interact with in the water. So that's for sure my favorite.
Oh, I can only imagine. That's so cute. Did you guys see this
Yeah.
video actually in San Diego? That was the sea lion that kept hopping on people's longboards and they were surfing
Oh
and
my
the sea
Yes.
gosh.
lion was on the
Yes.
board
Yes, I did see
and
that.
like that's so funny. I sometimes go to that surf spot and I was like hoping for it to pop up. And one time there was like a little one popping up and like spinning in circles really fast and I was like maybe that's
Mm.
it. But unfortunately it never hopped on my board. Um
You're
but
like
yeah,
scooching back, like, here,
I'm
I'm
just
making space for you.
come here, come here. They actually are the underwater puppies or the puppies of the ocean.
Truly, puppies. They're so fun to dive with.
Love that. Well, that was a wonderful end to this episode.
Well, Kayla, it's been wonderful talking with you and learning more about Blue World. I think it's an amazing thing that you're bringing awareness to, helping people break into ocean conservation. It's important. I don't think people talk about enough that the ocean, the issues of the ocean impact everyone, but not everyone has the resources, the ability, the knowledge, the background to be able to break into that field. So I think it's a beautiful thing you're doing. And thanks for sharing it with us today. We
Thank you
hope
so
you
much
learned
for
something
being on
new.
here. Um,
Yeah, guys,
Yeah.
thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful. I love what both of you guys do for the ocean. I love talking about the ocean and about the network and the work that we're doing at Blue. Super excited for anybody listening to hopefully join us either on the island or at some of our events on the mainland. Yeah, this is just the beginning. So we're really looking forward to seeing where it all goes. And thank you guys for having
Yay!
me. It was awesome
Thank you
chatting this
so
morning.
much for coming on. Well, we'll hopefully talk
Yeah,
soon in real life.
yes,
And thank you
definitely.
again. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Ocean Stories. If you'd like to follow along on Instagram, you can find us at oceanstories_podcast for updates and behind the scenes.
We'll also be sharing our ocean adventures on YouTube at Ocean Stories Podcast. If you like this episode, please show your support by leaving a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Join us next Tuesday for more Ocean Stories.